The best analytics and AI should be for everyone. Introducing SAS Viya, the fastest, most productive AI platform ever. Designed to be more collaborative, more powerful, more intuitive. Make your experts more expert, your decision makers more decisive, and your whole team more productive. Take it from the founder of analytics. The future is SAS Viya. The best analytics and AI should be for everyone. Introducing SAS Viya.
Thank you very much for that promotional video, and our sponsor SAS for providing us with our next keynote speaker. Before announcing him, I would just like to kind of paint you a picture of what he will be talking about. Imagine a future where we can completely cut out the IT hardware platform problem and just focus on what you are hired to do. Transforming structured and unstructured data into analytical insights, building and testing models in your preferred programming language, whether it be SAS or Python or R, having JupyterHub installed out of the box for immediate access to Jupyter Notebook. This and many other features which will basically help you as a programmer to do what you can do best. In the next hour, you will find out how this is possible, and if this theme sounds interesting, I would like you to give a warm welcome to our next keynote, Casper Pedersen from SAS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Feel free to.
Right, great introductions, and I have nothing to do with that video you saw before. That was made from the American marketing. There was a lot of dancing in that one, so I will not be doing any dancing this time. Okay, I thought to look at it in perspective from what I see most of the time when I'm traveling around Europe, Middle East, and Africa. As said, I'm head of technology partners here at SAS, covering specifically that region. I'm working very closely with our major technology partners together with the customers, so we have the right kind of fit once we have this analytical platform up and running. The technology partners being around the Microsoft, the Google, the Amazon, of course. These are the typical platform providers as we see at the moment within the cloud space. But also more and more comes up into the private cloud. So what can we do back on premise as well? So we are really in some very, very exciting times, and it works, my clicker. Okay, so just a bit about SAS. Maybe you don't know that much about us, but we're a bit of a dinosaur. As says, we're 46 years old, and a 46-year-old software company, that's pretty good. It started by Dr. Jim Goodnight in his garage when he did his education at the North Carolina University in Cary, America. He didn't really find the algorithms and the programming that well when he had to do his PhD. So what when you have a too high IQ, you make your own program. So that's what he did with a lot of his friends around it. And again, like the American dream, they started in a garage just like that. And that is officially 46 years ago. It has always been around analytics. Always, always. That is our backbone, that is our core, that is where our heart belongs to, that is analytics. And we have been market leader for the AI machine learning space for many, many years, especially with the data and sciences platform. We are very, very proud of that one. That's 8 years running whenever they started introducing that category. We do have a lot of other categories that we also see in as leaders. Simple thing like data quality. 16 years we've been in that category as well. And that's because we believe data is crucially almost just as important as the analytics, because we don't have the right data foundations. You get garbage in, garbage out. So very, very quickly, we had to focus on the whole data part as well. Fairly big. We are the biggest privately held software company currently here in the world. We are about 11,000 employees. We're working with major companies, the top 500, Fortune 500 companies. And we have more than 80,000 customers in 150 countries around the world. So we are spread. You should have bumped into us one way or the other. Also here in Belgrade, we're working very closely with the university. So more and more is actually being pushed back to the whole education department. That is a big belief from our founder, Dr. Jim Goodnight, that believe that education is crucially important. So more and more being offered into students at university. So you should probably see more about that. We also believe about the whole social sustainability. We have a lot of our solar installations. We do a lot for the environment as well. We have to do that. So all the data centers that we have responsible over, we are also applying that we have the kind of equal energy to support these ones. This is a big thing. You know, data centers really takes up a lot of energies as well. So these are just some of the elements if you don't know too much about SaaS, but that's actually what we are basically about. Very quickly, so this is a history of the technology of SaaS. So I said, maybe you've heard about it, maybe you haven't bumped into it yet, but it says 46 years ago, in the garage, that's when we started building the SaaS code that you see today. That's still the backbone of the actual programs that delivers this language, that is the SaaS language as well. Right now, we currently have 2 versions on it. We have the more traditional one. This is the 9 version, or the 9X versions referred to it. That's actually more than 20 years old. So that's a very solid technology that works tremendously well, that 99% of our customers still have. And that is built in 2002. It actually originates from some architecture back from the 1985. And believe it or not, we have customers that still have versions that is back from 1985. That's even before some of you in here were born. I know that. But that kind of shows that they've been put into some very crucial, important applications at our customer sites. And you know, some of them, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. What we are seeing here is a huge transitions in the market and also within our own company, going away from the more traditional on-premise solutions that you need to have this up and running, be more flexible, be more agile. And that's why we came up with, in about 2017, the SaaS Via. And that is the latest version that we have, and that will be the last of our versioning going forward. It will all be referring to a SaaS Via. And that is cloud native. So you can deploy this on the usual suspect. As I said, you have the Microsoft, the Amazon, the Googles, and then the vanilla and the OpenShift. Those are what I'm referring to as the private offering. A lot of things, or the private cloud that you can have on-prem or your data centers. A lot more is being built around the whole vanilla, so that's the Kubernetes, the upstream Kubernetes versions, and there'll be a lot of flavors. You've probably already seen them today, but the whole cloud space and the way you deploy stuff is really kicking off, and it's difficult to keep up with the track on that one, that's for sure. So that is kind of where we are, and a lot of our customers are in that transition. So going forward, they will have a few platforms to juggle with, but they seamlessly can integrate with each other. Right. So that's enough about SaaS. And I said, this is where we have the majority of the customers. So if you bumped into us previously, it's probably been around some of these solutions here. But we're really going over here to the last, and we're only referring to as the SaaS Via going forward. Okay. But let's take a bit of a market perspective, what I hear, and maybe also what you're bumping in today. So we know whenever there's been a major conference, or the executives have been to a conference, and they're coming back full of energized, and we need to do analytics. So 91% of them already, I would say, like, we need to have this analytics, and there's a big revolution going forward in front of us. We could have been saying this for the last 10, 15, 20 years, probably, but we are becoming more and more dependent on data and on analytics. So this really starts to resonate, not just from some of you that actually know something about it, but all the way up in the food chain, up to the executive level as well. So at least we have the mandate and the support for it. That's very important. If you want to do something, analytics or new projects, you need to have support and not just running it by as your own idea. So that's a good thing. That's what we need in order to get started, C-level support. Unfortunately, we also know that a lot of data, because they're getting more and more data, we are collecting data, some of it just because we can, but we're getting more and more data sources, and we are buying different kind of solutions that already has its own little ecosystem, so we have to connect to it. So the velocity of data is just increasing tremendously. All the devices that we're carrying can handle massive amount of volume, and they all of a sudden start to become new data sources that we need to integrate with or get different kind of data out of. So there is a lot of untouched data out there that we really have the opportunity to collect some valuable information that we need to get access to. And then, this is probably the worst one. It used to work, and here it is. This is the problem. This is the problem that 80% of the machine learning models never makes it into production. That is a huge problem. And that's because, I'm not a data scientist, I can't claim that professional, but you really that's where you really start to show some value once you get it into productions. You can have the best algorithm, have the best model, but if you have no people to show it to, if you don't have the right data to apply it to, and if you can't get it into production, it has zero value. If that has zero value, unfortunately, you will have the same value. So that is the last mile. You can Google that a lot, the last mile. Forrester has also written an article about that. And that is really what we're trying to use our from 76, so that's 46 years of experience on how to get it into productions. And I said, it's not because we're missing tools. Just showing you a bit here, like this is 10 years ago, so this was the landscape. We can understand this, we can see it, we can see what we have in different kind of categories. Of course, we're also there in the middle. As business intelligence, as it was called, that was the buzzword back then 10 years ago. And it's a bit nostalgic looking at this one. There's a lot of these companies that's not here anymore. But that was the landscape back then. That was my time, that was my prime. And we were in there fighting against all these ones. The landscape today is a bit more different, and this is your landscape. And poor you, that's the landscape of today. So this is the machine learning, AI, and data, also referred to as MAD. And that's exactly what this is. This is MAD. This is MAD to get an overview of. And I'll also give you a prize if you can find us. We're up there 3 times, believe it or not, in all these categories. And we're just applying new categories whenever we find something new. So it's not really easy to get an overview on where to start. But I'm saying at least there's not a shortage of tools out there. But unfortunately, getting all these tools to work together, that is very, very difficult. We sometimes have a mindset that we are very, very narrowing in what kind of language we're programming. Is it SAS? Is it R? Is it Python? Or whatever we find out there. And that's also something that you need to take into consideration. Be careful of just going down one path. We don't know what happened in 2 or 3 or 4 years. Maybe that language will be obsolete and no more need for, and then your career based on that one can be in the same kind of situation. So this is the reality that you have to look into, but also that we have to look into. And so what are we trying to do with that one? As I said, we know the vision for getting all these data into something clever is out there. That's what every company is looking for. That's what company, organizations, even public, private, municipalities, countries, they also look into this one. So we definitely need to find a way. We know that the market is there, but I said it's not just about making money or optimizing financial reports or products, anything like that. It's also about the social responsibilities. So a lot of things that we have to look into is also how we improve the society that we're living into, whether it's optimizing traffic that we do in some cities, traffic lights, to actually reduce the pollution. But of course, it drives innovation. And that's a very, very good match when you have the open source. A lot of you probably working with R, Python, and so on. Those are great innovation tools. And those in conjunction with a bit more older proprietary tool to get into production like ourselves, that's a very, very good combination. So we're not competing against innovations or the open source, not at all. We need to improve the decisioning. Whatever decisions we are making can't be based on gut feeling anymore. We used to do that. We used to build it on, I feel like, this is what we normally do, and I know that kind of market, know that customer. We can't do that anymore. As I said, the market, the world around us is just changing, and sometimes we have no control on the way that is changing. And of course, increase the agility. We can't be locked. We need to be very, very flexible in what we do. As I said, whenever you take your strategy, take your path, make sure that you sometimes stop up, look left and right, and make sure that there are some agilities, the flexibility in what you are going down to. So, transforming the world of data into a world of intelligence. That is a pretty ambitious vision, and it should be. Remember, a vision needs to be very high, very ambitious. Otherwise, it's not a vision. So that is what we need to thrive for. That's what we need to aim for. And now, actually, to do that, that is, of course, the big challenge on it. Here we go. So let's take data. As I said, data is truly hugely important. That's where we have everything as a baseline. That's the data that we need to transform into intelligence. But of course, in order to bridge that gap, that is actually where you come into the picture. And that's where we have the analytics comes into the picture. That's it. So take whatever we have from data, transform it into intelligence that is equal analytics. So that's what we believe analytics should be. It should be experienced by anyone, whether as a user, as a programmer, but also as a recipient of the analytics. This could be a person in a hospital. They can also experience the power of analytics. We need to optimize every single decision. As I said, the gut feeling is no more. We can't continue on doing that one. And then, of course, as I said, we need to really embrace and advance the innovations that we have across the whole mapped landscape, as you saw previously. We can't do necessarily just one shop for everything. Really have to embrace the different kinds of technologies. And the two ones are very, very important as well. Transparency and trust. I know you're not necessarily infected by the EU GDPR as such, but the whole transparency and the way that we are working with data, those black box of algorithms that we have, that is a no-go. Our users, our customers, they require to know what you're doing with the data. What are your analysis? How are you doing segmentations? How are you doing screening? We need to be transparent because transparency, that gives trust. That goes hand in hand. And we know in many examples that users, customers are willing to share more of their personal data as long as they feel that they can trust it. Trust in what you're using it for, the duration, the purpose of it. That's really what we need. So that's very, very important. The more trust we can get and transparency, the more data we will have available for us to do analytics on. So that's a very important one. And as I said, the whole social innovations, we can't get around that today. We need to be cautious on what are we using, not just from a data perspective, but from a resource perspective. And we are looking more into how to optimize the whole world, reducing the CO2 footprint that we have. And we're seeing more and more customers and more and more people who want to be hired at different kind of customers are focusing on the social responsibility. So we also comply with the Paris Conventions about the CO2 neutral. So that is a big thing that everybody has to look into as well. So that is the essence of what we think analytics should be. And here I could have a slide full of fancy companies and fancy names that we're working for and great projects and so on. I was going to do that until last night. Had a sleep on it this morning. And then I actually thought, no, I want to show you something that is a lot more real and a lot more powerful. So this is actually about saving life. These are some great data scientists of ours. I'm particularly proud of Frederica and Matteo that works in our sister teams. We also had Elia. He was an intern here at SAS, worked here for 6 months. Remember, every year we're looking for interns. We just done this in EMEA, 28 countries. We have hired 110 new interns. We had 5,800 applicants. So, look at our website whenever we go and look for interns. And I said, Elia, he was one of them. Now he's finishing his PhD as well. But these great guys here, they really took data scientists to a whole new level and really are saving life with the solution they're working with Cambridge University. It's actually computer vision. So computer vision is just images, as you know. This is a cat. You have some trees and grass and so on. But it was a bit more sophisticated than of course, cats and dogs. Of course it was. This is to do with renal histopathology. It's something to do with kidneys. I'm not that clever to understand it, but really this is about how a kidney failure, how a transplant between a patient and a donor. That's very important. Once you find these highly valuable, let's say, products, you need to make sure that it fits into the patient as well. So this is about using these very, very high resolutions of X-rays of the different kind of kidneys and the arteries, making sure that the bloodstream can work. Really a fantastic example on how to apply this hardcore computer visions. So that was that's probably the best one I want to share with you instead of giving some fancy names. So a big shout out to Frederica, Matteo, Elia, and Tuba as well from our company. So as I said, we want to get rid of all this noise around you so you can do what you do best, which is hopefully analytics or create some intelligence. The way to it, that's up to you, or the path to it. So I said, how can we do that? So what we have done together with our partner at Microsoft, We had created the full analytical lifecycle, the full analytical package available on the Azure Marketplace, taking care of the analytical lifecycle. I think we invented the analytical lifecycle more than 20 years ago. It comes in different varieties and different kind of wheels. Sometimes we had 2 wheels. I think it started with 2 wheels, circles, then become an infinity. Then we add a 4th and a 5th one. I don't know. Marketing, they make up some new wheels every year. But basically, it takes you through the analytical lifecycle and all the disciplines that you have to be aware about when you are getting into this space. As I said, it starts with data. Everything starts with data, connecting to data sources. So just connecting is not just by using ODBC connections, and everything doesn't exist on CSV file or Excel file. No, there's actually a lot of other data sources that we need to be able to access. And that's what we're doing from the beginning once there was more than just one data source. So out of the box, we have more than 60 native connections to data source. That's very important because those connections would do a lot of server-side selections on making sure that leave the data in the database and only take out what's relevant for the purpose of this algorithm or this report. So connections is very important. We have more than 60 of those ones. Once you connected it into it, you can go directly into visualizations and create a report if it's trusted data you're building on. But again, this is where we start to doing some of the data preparations. We need to do some preparations in order to build a model. Again, a lot of trust and transparency. So we need to show what we're doing. We need to show what filters are we applying on, what transformations are we doing to the data before applying whatever forecast or segmentations that we have in here. You build your model, you do some testings, and the whole model ops. So a lot of oops are going on at the moment. There's also ML ops, there's AI ops, and so on. We're still kind of sticking to the model ops as well because that covers the whole spectrum of it. And that's very important. That's the whole deployment. That is where we're going to get those 80% missing into productions. But not just once they come into production. You can't, sit back and relax. You need to constantly monitor them. You need to test them. You need to score them. And sometimes you need to either retire them or train them or retrain them again. Very important that this is not just one flow. This is continuously a project all over time. And then, of course, you can also put this into consume whatever different applications you want it to consume. So this is built on the Azure technology. So the whole Dynamics 365, the Power Apps, the Power Automate, that's also available for further distributions of the data. So that's kind of the basic of what we have created. And as said, the elements that we go through, and this is what you will have available. This is the whole data access, the preparations, and the quality. As said, despite that we've been 8 years in a row continuously on the whole AI and machine learning platform, we've done this for 16 years when it comes to data quality. And that's very close to my heart. That's how old I am because I like data. I really believe in the garbage in, garbage out. That is tremendously important because otherwise, as I said, you will have a great algorithm, but it's based on the wrong data. You know the outcome of that one. So this really gives you an overview of the data you start to apply to. So you can connect to pretty much any data source that is out there. You don't have to worry about that. And you connect in a native way, so it does as little possible stress on the actual database as it can. But it gives you a great overview of the data you're starting to handling. Everything from frequency and patterns. Missing values is a bigger problem where the names are spelled rightly and wrongly. Of course, you can figure that out as well. So can Word, spell check. But the missing values or the wrong values is actually sometimes more important. And that's what this profiling of your data set, that's what it will give you. It might be a bit difficult for you to see, but there are information privacy where it says no, left to that one. There's nothing attached, or it doesn't flag anything. Information privacy, that's because the system automatically can detect whether this is sensitive data, whether it's social security number, whether it's disease numbers, where there are individuals number. It can automatically detect that, and then it flags that one. You can even flag it and put it into a workflow and say like, hey, you can't touch this data until you have a written process within your organization to comply with your guidelines on handling personal data. So it is actually very clever out of the box. But I said, as a data scientist, it will give you this overview to see whether this data is good enough for you to work on or to get some additional data if some of the values are missing in that one, as we see on the 5th one here as well. Missing value, a big problem as well. So that's how we start with, and that's how the platform is supporting you. Then it takes over to a bit more interesting part. Can you click next? Here we go. Visualization and reporting. it can actually be well, I said it could be the first, but I said a good practice is to do your data preparation as well and get this over in profiling. And then you can jump into visualization and reporting. So out of the box, it has a great reporting and visualization tool, SAS Visual Analytics and Visual Statistics. It's a lot more than just a BI tool, so do not compare it with a BI tool, because a lot of the algorithms, a lot of the models that we already have are being built into this one, and that is a point-and-click interface. It gives you a lot of guidance during the way, and I said this is also available, and really very quickly it comes up with suggestions on how this report should put out, even come with suggestions on the variable that you can add into a report as well. So that is again something that you can visualize and show to your key and target audience as well. And once you've done your reporting visualizations, of course, the usual iPads and iPhone source is also available if needed for that distribution as well. But a really, really powerful front-end tool for visualizations. And then we have maybe what is very important for you, the whole model building and testing. So you do your code in SAS, you do your code in Python, you do your code in R. I don't care what language you're using. But what we do care about is that you create a pipeline. We do care about that you create and build this in a view so you can see exactly what you're doing with data, what algorithms, what transformations are you applying to. So you get your whole flow that is visual. I said this is something that creates this transparency. Well, this is transparency that gives you that trust. So it generates the model pipeline and make sure that the model has all the right things. And on your left, you have all the different kind of functionalities that you can apply to this decision tree or whatever you want to make. So that is really powerful, and that's a lot along the way, also point and click. But again, you can apply your code. So if you're happy with Python, you can automatically take that into the solution as well. And I said the open source is great for the innovations, but in order to get this in productions, we need governance, and we need testing, we need documentations. And that's why those two worlds are so beautifully bridged together and really becomes powerful. So that is the interface that you will probably most likely be working with, but very, very powerful. Drag and drop. You even have connection with teams, so you can see when one is finished on working on that pipeline, that model that is ready for you to continue. So a lot of integration, a lot of sharing, not just on your local PC, but everybody can start collaborating on it. And then, very important, that is the last wheel, that's the whole model up, so that's the deployment. I said, this is the last mile. So this is where it's very important that once we create this model, that we get it into a model repository so we can see the models side by side, not just one model, but multiple models, and you can start comparing these models. You can start see which model is performing best and making sure that that's the one that's being promoted into production. So that is a very, very powerful interface. And it gives you a good overview on actually how many models you have, how many of them are published, where they come from, and also what destinations they are either being targeted to or where they're coming from. And I said, this is not just one little server or one little instance you're getting it from. It could be multiple, massive corporations. They have different kind of platform, different kind of infrastructure that you need to be able to handle. So that is really what the whole model manager, which is the core around the whole repository and the governance around the model. As I said, monitoring the models, making sure a model will decay over time. It just will. That's the nature of it. That's why we need to constantly monitor it and make sure that it's either being retrained or retired. So that is a really, really good interface and a great way to get this overview on your actual model, model deployment work desk looks like. So very, very powerful, and that's also a part of it. That's a bit more advanced one, but it comes in the end of the life cycle. Dude, come on. I'm clicking. Here we go. So, enough talk. So how does it look like? You know, talk is cheap. Proof is in the pudding, as they say in England. So this is actually available for you in the Azure Marketplace. There's a QR code. You can scan that one. That will be coming a bit later as well. But that will take you into this web page, and that will take you into the Azure Marketplace. So you need a subscription for that one. Most organizations, they do have a subscription with Azure anyway. And that's where you go in and simply select it. I was supposed to do this live, but we didn't have the right cables and so on. So I did a recording last night at 8 o'clock. You can see I was in my hotel room. And what else to do at 8 o'clock at your hotel room? So basically, This is what you have in here, and you can create it. So you have a subscription. Everybody will have some kind of subscriptions. You'll have some different kind of resource group. We're a big company, so we have a lot of resource group available for us. But for the sake of this one, I created a new resource group, so my IT will be upset with me because I'm creating too many groups. I call it the Data Scientist Conference 2022, and these are where the instance is going to be deployed. So this is the region that you are close to. So of course, make sure that within your company that you're following whatever policies you have. There's so many different kind of regions where you could put in your data. And I think for this example, I was looking for North Korea. I didn't find it, so I took South Korea, funny enough, just because you can. Give it a good name, deployment name, something that you can remember. By default, it's MyVia, but that is a lot that's been called that one. You need to set an IP address, that's some security, so everybody in your organizations or in your class or wherever you come from, you have your IP address. The deployment DNS prefix, so that's actually the address of this solution. So it'll be DSC2, South Korea, Cloud App, Azure, and so on. Password administrations, 12 characters. I think I did it right the first time. Yes, I did. Need to confirm it. I'm really concentrating. Yes, they did match. Then you need to apply a public key source. You get that downloaded and also give the key pair a name. And then you give the application. So just for consistency, I use the DSC22. Then a review. Now it's actually validating everything that I put in, that it's available for me, that I actually have also the subscriptions to do it. And it's still thinking. And yes, it's happy. Validation is correct. It gives me an overview. Remember, luckily for me, this doesn't cost anything, but this only costs 55 cents per SaaS unit that you're using. This is based on every hour. Agree on the terms and conditions. I go through EC, that was my subscriptions, my resource group. I chose to put this in the South Korea region because I could. The deployment name, the public IP address, the label of it, and of course the password, and then you are ready to go. I think I'm clicking next. I'm clicking create. I'm downloading the key that I need to install once it's up and running. And that's it. This is 3 minutes and 10 seconds long video, but that's all it takes to deploy a platform that I just walked through the capabilities of. That's all it is. It takes about 45 to 60 minutes, depending on what region you have chosen to have this installed on, and also depending on how much activity there is in that given tenant. But that's really about it. And now you can see deployment in progress. So if I was to talk really slow, we would have been able to see this in 45 minutes, but we're not going to wait for that one, of course not. And I wouldn't know what to do with it once it's up and running. I'm not that clever. But that's it. So within 1 hour, you can actually do this yourself. So I said, getting rid of the IT, getting rid of the architecture, getting rid of the whole deployment issues that you previously have had. That's what you can do here. Find it into Azure Marketplace. It will be on other marketplaces later this year. If you don't have, you can see over there to the left, I spoke to my colleagues at Microsoft. It is okay for you to go in as a private person if you choose to. You can start off with some credit, and then you can have this up and running in the break, lunch hour, whatnot. But that's actually how easy it is to get this massive platform up and running and available for you to do some analytics. And luckily enough, don't worry, this is my last slide, and then you'll have a break. I did a lot of talking. I didn't do any walking, but apart from here, and that's what Mike, he's going to do. So my good colleague, Mike Johansen, he is online. Hello, Mike, sorry. He's actually going to show you this on Wednesday. So if you have time, go in about 2 o'clock. He will do exactly what I've been yelling about for the last 30, 40 minutes. I have no idea how long time I spent up here, but he will do all the walking that I've done the talking to. So remember to sign up for that form. He will build, as I said, use this built on the Azure Marketplace as well. So that is about it for me. So I said, be curious. Go and do what you do best, which is hopefully analytics. That's all for me. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Hello, Casper. Thank you very much for the opening keynote. We also do have some time for questions if you guys have any for him. Hello? Am I here? Oh, okay. We do have time for some questions if anyone is inclined, so I'm inviting you to do so now. If not, then we can continue on with the... We actually, if you want, you can answer one question that I actually had in mind. You mentioned in your talk that people are inclined to share more data if they trust the entity that they're sharing their data to. A lot of people are skeptical nowadays, and at the same time, a lot of our data is collected and used without our knowledge. Can you comment a bit on how companies that are making truly groundbreaking and good AI can bridge the gap of distrust between themselves and the customers, and what will be kind of the steps and the approach to that?
Yeah. Let me get back up close to you. As I said, that's a very relevant and a very important part of it, and it's not just that easy to bring that gap. And that was actually some of the good things. If you can say that anything good about the EU GDPR, that actually required every organization to take a look at themselves and look at the data they used. There was a lot of regulations they had to follow, especially financial service. They're used to regulations, but that is just a headache from an organizational perspective. For us as citizens who also have our data at different kind of companies, it's very, very important that we follow the GDPR regulations. But it gave them a tremendous insight. And one of the things you have to do in the regulations is data minimization, so get rid of all the data that you no longer need. But it also gave us an insight of what we actually had. I helped a lot of companies, major companies. We had a German insurance company where we stopped counting the systems or the databases when we reached 10,000. 10,000 different places where they had multiple customer data inside it. So it really was a good cleanup exercise, and the GDPR was a good excuse for that one. But that gave us an insight, and then we could start focusing on what is relevant for us to use. And going forward, whenever we apply new projects, whenever we apply new systems, it has to be privacy by default, privacy by design. That's our solutions. So we always have a mindset of what is the data being used for. So I think as bad as frustrating the EU GDPR was, it gave us a wake-up call that we can't just collect data and use it as we want to be. And those customers who took that seriously, they got a competitive advantage. I know an insurance company in Greece, they actually took over another insurance company because they failed to comply with the EU GDPR. They got a huge fine, and they were ready because they set the bar in that region, in that market. So it was a competitive advantage as well, if you take it seriously and look internally.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully that was an answer to your question.
Oh, thank you very much. It was. Next up, before we announce our next speaker, I would like to thank SAS, from which Casper is coming to talk to us today. Since 1976, SAS has been empowering and inspiring customers with the most trusted analytics, from machine learning, the deep learning, computer vision, and natural language processing, to forecasting and optimization. Their AI and IoT technologies support diverse environments and scale to meet changing business demands. More than 84,000 customers in 145 countries, including 92 of the top 100 Fortune 500 companies, are on SAS and list SAS as and depend on SAS to transform a world of data into a world of intelligence. To learn more, please visit their website, sas.com. And afterwards, don't go anywhere. We are continuing our program with our data science and production track.